Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you're tuning in. We are Slava and Jonathan, bringing you the Side Quest podcast, where we talk about character development, stories, and all things that are world building. And we occasionally take side quests, because, frankly, that's how conversations work. Just as a reminder, this whole show is spoiler heavy. So sit back, tune in, and join us on this episode of Side Quest.
Jonathan.
Slava.
Hello.
We meet again.
We meet again.
Same time, same place.
On the dark side of Arrakis.
Maybe that's our new our new final words. Hey, same time, same place. It's like an old one. That's like an 80s thing.
Same bat channel, same bat time.
Yeah.
The 60s thing.
60s? Really?
The old Batman's from the 60s.
Oh,
campy,
yeah.
cheesy. Adam West, with Mayor Adam West. And
boy.
his trusty sidekick, Robin.
Wiggles McGee. Robin.
Yes, that actor, Wiggles McGee. Very famous 60s actor. Only known for one role. It's playing Robin on the Batman series.
Later went on to be Wiggles McGee.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Ridiculous. Well,
you know what he changed his name from, right? Wigglestein. McGee. I don't know why his first name was this. I messed that joke up. Never mind.
Okay.
All right.
It was actually a little funnier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. No, it's not funny at all. It's a ruined joke.
All right. Well, let's dive in. I know that this is the last two chapters of Dune, so I'm just going to give us a quick rehash. But this is the big kapow, the big bang, the old 1-2. I'm trying to remember other things that they flash in that type of Batman. Kapow is just
the kapow, kazam.
Yeah, but I said kapow.
Whippity. That's what.
It's the old Wiggles McGee.
Wiggling your McGee.
This is a kid's show. Is this a kid's show? This is not a kid's show.
You're
wearing your gator ass hat again.
Yes.
All gator, all ass.
All the time. That's what Wiggles McGee used to say.
Oh, all right.
That's what got him fired.
All right, so the last two chapters roll in a bang. The old kapow. We got Stilgar and Paul waiting for the sandstorm to roll in so they can strike at the Emperor. But just before that happens, we hear bum. Paul's kid is dead and his sister is captured. Wah, wah. That sucks. What does he do? No time to mourn. He's practiced that since his dad has. He had the same thing happen with being in the moment and in the action when he would have preferred to mourn. Not today. Not right now. He's got things to do. So he fronts to the Emperor and the Fremen strike. Aaliyah kills the Baron, which I love the fact that the Gonjabar came back. That's like a nice little, front end, back end book thing here. Especially from like a child. It just seems so much more satisfying. Sorry, we'll get into that.
Poison dart wielding child.
Mm-hmm. Shouldn't everybody want a daughter like that? Don't have to worry about her. Paul negotiates with the Emperor, kills Feyd-Rautha in a duel. Feyd-Rautha, what a dweeb. Oh,
yeah.
Me. All right, we'll get into it. Sorry, I'm supposed to be giving the recap here.
Well,
sorry, do you want to say something?
No, I'll save it for when we discuss his.
All right, we'll get to it pretty quickly. I'll hurry up here. So Paul asks for the throne through marriage with Princess Irulan. So we have the revelation that all the epigraphs are Princess Irulan, which is why she knows so much about Muad'Dib and recites his wisdom in the beginning of each of the chapters because, well, they're married. And then the Emperor's daughter is Princess Irulan is the Emperor's daughter, which he reluctantly agrees to give her in marriage. And I feel like there was not as much pressure as there could have been or should have been on the Emperor to make this happen. I mean, I guess his life was at risk, so maybe that was enough pressure. Yeah, I just feel like Paul should have negotiated for more. Because, who's to say after they get married here in, the next 10, that he doesn't just have him killed when he's traveling sometime? I don't know. But Chani will be his true wife, or so he says. And then Chani lives happily ever after and needs to bear another son. Maybe. We don't know.
And then Irulan is,
To be a royal concubine.
To be a royal concubine, never to be bind. or concued. And
Concued.
just
That's what the kids say on the streets.
writes epigraphs for
You, me,
her
concu?
grandfather's biography. Grandfathers? He has grandfathers. No, fathers. Emperors are father.
Yeah.
I know things.
Yep.
I read this book.
Anyway, before we continue to dive in, as we're itching to do, it seems, is there anything new or interesting you wanted to share, Slava? Or books that you're reading? And
Like a book that I'm reading?
Yeah. Or would recommend? You know, it could be news. It could be, your life. We're here to hear about your life and your tale.
Sure. So one book that I'm reading is called The Heritage of Anglican Theology by J.R. Packer.
Sounds like an easy read.
And it's actually a very easy read. People just are lazy if they find theology overwhelming. And I stand by that, and don't at me, don't care. But The Heritage of Anglican Theology, it's a primer for Anglican theology. Something that I've enjoyed in my seminary studies is reading Anglican scholars. So I picked this one up because I also have read many other books by J.I. Packer. And if you want to learn more about Christianity in general or Anglicanism in particular, you can read that book. But a book that I would recommend to the audience only because it's very timely is Putin by Philip Short, and it's Putin's biography. And it kind of takes the reader from childhood all the way up to maybe 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. Doesn't matter. It talks about the most important foundational years of Putin's life and political career. So I'm right around where the Soviet Union falls and Putin finds himself in East Germany. And ultimately, at the end of the section I'm reading, finds himself back in Leningrad trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
When did the Soviet Union fall?
It started to fall very late 80s, and it fell officially 1991 is when it all went to hell in a handbasket. So this is very much a condensed, simplified version because a lot of stuff started happening. But when Estonia, one of the first countries to tell Russia to go screw itself and declared independence, that participated other events, I think even in as far down as Hungary. And there are plenty of stuff going on in East Germany at that time, which we just won't get into because this will actually require a long backstory to everything that was going on in the 80s in the Soviet Union. So, all that to say, if you want to learn about Putin, read Putin by Philip Short. If you're so inclined to learn about Anglican theology, J.R. Packer. That's my book recommendations for the week. Or the month, because it will take me a while to get through it. It's like a 60-hour book, that Putin book.
Wow. It's quite a bit.
What are you reading these days?
I'm currently reading a book called Talk to Me, which I started reading for a couple of reasons, because I think questions are how we exchange knowledge in day-to-day life from each other and from work, and even how we ask questions here on this podcast. It's like, okay, how do we make this more interesting? And it's a book about how to be a better journalist, which I got recommended from a friend, and it's been really good so far. I don't think that everything is applicable to what we're up to here on the podcast, SideQuest, but it is very good and helpful. It talks about doing research before you dive into having conversations with people. It talks about how in every conversation that you're going to record or speak to, trying to bring a different angle. It talks about the ethics of conversations and, not trying to do any gotcha stuff because it's not super useful. So that, and then I'm just reading my MBA books, learning about becoming a master of business administration.
Nice.
So those are the books that I'm currently reading. I've just been thinking about as well what side books I'm going to pick up. And in other things books that we haven't read yet, but we've talked about reading. Slav and I are probably going to do a short series for ghost stories in October. I don't know if we've settled on what that's going to look like at the moment, but that is the current trajectory. So if you like ghost stories, we'll be releasing second episodes every week to talk shorter ghost stories, if we might even read it to you. We don't have the format figured out yet, but that I'm kind of excited about. So now that we've taken that little detour, calmed down a little bit, let's dive back into Arrakis and Paul and this final few moments on Dune together before we have this just really fun, and I can't wait for the next episode. Speaking of which, make sure you subscribe right now. Just pause for a second. Just hit the subscribe button, because we're about to have a real kapow knockout moment in the next episode where we have two guests on. One that you know, our old classic guy, Spency Boy, and then another one of my best friends, Christopher, who's going to come on and speak about Dune with us. Both of them have been reading it as well and joining along, but I wanted to get their takes on it. Spencer has never read the book before. Christopher, I believe this is his third or fourth read through. Could be wrong on the exact number, but he's read it a few times. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to a 4-person episode just to see how it goes. I can't wait. I'm super excited.
So Spencer decided to come back from whatever planet we stranded him on after we broke his wishes.
Yeah, that's
he
true.
hasn't gone mad yet from reading everybody's thoughts.
Also true.
No.
Welcome back, still Spencer. Alive. Yeah. He'll get this sometime.
What am I thinking now?
Food. You're thinking about food.
I'm thinking about gator ass. Okay, man.
Okay.
Don't knock until you try it.
I'm not going to try it.
Just don't try it at the place I tried it, because it'll be overbreaded and overfried.
Man, that's the worst kind of ass. All right. Is this a good ending for a book, Slava? You tell us.
I was pleased by it. I thought it was good.
Why?
Well, how can you end a book, right? The question is, how do you end a book as an author? And what kind of endings do people find satisfying?
Well,
for me, this one was satisfying. Paul kills Feyd-Rautha, puts the Emperor back in his place. The Baron dies. He gets Chani, even though it's not ideal, but, political intrigue and royals and, rich people problems. So all that stuff, fine. I was satisfied, but could have been another chapter or something, or an epilogue. But because this is a trilogy, if I wanted to go and learn a little bit more, I could do that. And if I wanted to pick apart what I just read in more detail, there are 5 appendices. So I was satisfied. That's the word I'm choosing to use. I was satisfied with the ending. I thought it was pretty good. You not so much?
It's funny that you say you would not have enjoyed it as much if it was a standalone book, because my thought upon finishing it, especially because I haven't read the other books, is, man, this is a great standalone book. I had that thought.
The book itself, yeah, but we're talking if we're getting to the weeds, I would have wanted more from the ending if it was a standalone book, but I enjoyed the hell out of it at the same time. I even texted you, this is a great effing book.
He did.
I've enjoyed the book. But if we're going to get very pedantic and say, hey, I would have liked the ending less if this was a standalone, because I would have wanted some sort of epilogue just to kind of round things off nicely. Maybe 10 years in the future, we get a glimpse into what being a lonely biographer is,
But we already have that glimpse.
Irulan.
We already had that glimpse. Just read the book again.
Well, we have epigraphs. That's barely a glimpse. That's a
no. But here's how do I say this? So if you reread it, you just let's go back to the beginning. We'll do another 7 episodes on this. We'll just read it back to back twice, right? We would talk about okay, we would focus on specifically each epigraph. We would bring it as a topic that we addressed every time. Man, Princess Irulan, what's she quoting, what she's saying, and then you and I would speculate about what's going on in her life, because we haven't read the other books. Let's pretend they don't exist, because we're talking about what if this was a standalone? We would know on this read through Princess Irulan is a solo queen who gets to have none of the benefits of being a queen at the moment. And she's alone. And what is that like? And why is she quoting his wisdom? And who is she quoting it to? because she's just this lone biographer. And so did she forcibly say, I need to find a hobby, or did she just keep pestering him? Like, there's so many questions.
Fair enough, but if we're talking strictly about the ending, I still like it. So, and maybe I'm belaboring a point unnecessarily, or making a point unnecessarily. Without, even before it's belabored, the point's moot. But
how would you change it? How would you? So if it was a standalone book,
I would put in.
You just want the additional
epilogue.
10 chapter or 10 years down the road,
or whatever. Doesn't have to be 10 years.
Yeah,
just an
something.
epilogue. That's, maybe even a general epilogue, and then they all lived happily ever after, except Princess Irulan. Something
You
would
would
have been
hate
nice.
that. You would
It would've
hate
been
that.
nice.
No, you would hate that. And they all lived happily. And the emperor was the best father-in-law that Paul never had.
Yeah, that would suck ass, honestly. And then the
Alligator.
emperor and Paul went fishing on the new and refurbished and not refurbished. What's the word? Revitalized Arcadis. No, that would suck. That'd be cliche. But some sort of a general sense of where the family went afterwards would have been nice. But it doesn't take away from the book at all, and it doesn't make me, hate the ending. I thought the ending was great. The fight, I even liked. I'm going to read you a quote that I really enjoyed from the ending.
Oh, sure. Yep.
And it's about Paul and Phaedratha fighting. Paul twisted his hand free, aided by the lubrication of the blood from his arm, thrust one hard up underneath Phaedratha's jaw. The point slid home into the brain. A little macabre, but I found just like that was satisfying. Finally,
Enough of his badgering and dilly-dallying with the...
his dweebery. So I thought all that ended. I thought all that was really cool. I enjoyed those.
It was a nice ending.
It was a nice ending. I enjoyed those little pieces of the ending because it was finally Paul got to reap some benefits from all, his suffering, his hard work, and everything that he's been doing for the last 47 chapter. It all paid off.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets...
It tied it up nicely, too, because we got to see the Ganjabar again. Phaedratha got to get his comeuppance, harking back to my intro piece where it's like, he's such a whiny dweeb. Like, what?
It's a sniveler.
They're raiding your building. The Emperor's not going to do anything to help you.
Yeah, he's a sniveler.
Sniveler.
So anyway, like you said, tied it up really nice. Paul got some reprieve. The bad guys got some justice. And the Emperor got his own just reward, too. So I thought it was a good ending. I liked it.
What do you... Well, I'll get to that later. Yeah, I really liked it. It's funny that this is just another incident that Slav and I had very different opinions on a book. But that's what makes this interesting. So I really loved that the Ganjabar came back. And also, like, Aaliyah being the conduit of, like, giving the Baron his comeuppance as well. Like, here you go, Grandpa. Snap. That was just nice. Like,
yeah, no, she's a precocious little assassin.
Yes,
I like it.
Yeah, it was nice. And then I also loved the fact that Paul stuck it to the Emperor. I mean, that just felt good because we've seen Paul go through so much. And what I want to know, though, some questions, and we'll dive more into the questions at the end, but just an initial question thought is, okay, we saw the Emperor get his, we saw the Baron get his, but the people who were really pulling these strings, the Guild. And you've got like 2 representatives there, but that's not enough. They're going to find out about what happened, and then they're going to want payment or something. So, yeah, dealing with the Emperor, Sardaukar, okay, fine. Good, satisfying, but I'm just curious about, what the Guild's retaliation would be like. Anyway, we can dive into that more near the end when we're asking questions and things. But what do you guys think? Like, leave a comment. Just throw a comment in the episode here, and let Slava and I know that it's a great standalone book, not a great standalone book. Did you have Gator this week? Talk to us.
Yeah. Seriously, I want to know if any of our listeners have ever eaten fried gator.
All right. That's not exactly what I want to know. I mean, I'll listen to you talk about that.
Not
but
alligator, the animal. I'm not sure where your mind is, Jonathan.
Yep.
This is a kids program. we're reading 1970s sci-fi just for
children.
edification of children. Yep. We're just a weird Mr. Rogers.
That's a new
that
podcast.
swears sometimes. We are not. We are Mr. Rogers that swears sometimes. All
right, keep this train rolling.
You want to get into themes? We can get into some themes next because we can wrap them up with this final episode.
Let's do it.
Guest free. Okay, so power and suffering. We've talked about that numerous times. In each episode, we had some sort of I had some sort of note on it. And here, it continues through the end of the book. The violence continues. Last episode, we talked about how the struggle for power is not without suffering and death. And the silly analogy I had for you was if you wanted to overtake America or any other country, you wouldn't be able to do it. Like, to be able to get to that status of power, there would be a lot of death and destruction on the way to your ascension to where you could take on the American military. So this continues on throughout these last chapters with the Fremen being the Sarkadins, taking over the ship with the Emperor in it. The Baron gets killed. The Emperor loses. After all the years of not losing, he loses. And then we have the suffering aspect of it. That's the violence aspect of it. The suffering aspect of it is, at the end of the book, Paul repeats his father's fate. He can't marry the one he loves, and he has to marry somebody else, something that Jessica wasn't married for in Leto's case, because what if we have to marry somebody for political reasons? So that repeats.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of power. Heavy's the head that wears the crown kind of thing.
Yep.
Paul now is in danger, more so than if he was, roaming around caves, stipping Cheney for more, to get more kids out of her. Yeah, remember that kid from the last episode?
Make sure you step.
And Cheney suffers like Jessica. She suffers Jessica's fate. Yes, she's the loved one, she's the preferred one, but she's now part of this machine where, when she was Kynes' daughter and she was part of the Fremen and she had to fight for her life, and then she was the, girlfriend and very quickly wife, sort of common wife, I guess. There was never a ceremony of the Muad'Dib, and now all that romance and adventure is gone. She is now an official royal in a cesspool. So suffering continues. And with that suffering, we can quickly jump into people in nature. I'll let you respond, and then we'll go on to the other themes.
Mm-hmm.
And people in nature here, what makes people suffer? Well, people, other people, and in this ecosystem that Herbert created, this world, nature affects the people. The spice affects the people. Arrakis affects how the Fremen live. It affects their religion. It affects their pragmatism and practicality and how they practice those religion, although some of them go off into cuckoo land, as we discussed in the previous episode.
That we did.
And the Sardaukar, they're shaped by their prison planet. They're shaped by the Emperor's culture of death and destruction that he has, that overshadows their world. But even that didn't prepare him for the Fremen's, unity and power. So that's the struggle, right? I'm not even going to make comparative statements because it doesn't matter to the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not relevant to the point. Each of them were shaped by their environment, and each of their environments were harsh. So those themes, and here's where I'll end and let you post some questions or corrections to me. That's throughout the book. Herbert never let up on the themes that we picked out, and the next ones are free will, religion, human potential, all that stuff. But from chapter 1 to chapter 48, Herbert was consistent in weaving those themes in.
That's true. I had a thought earlier while you were running down that stuff. Do you think that because what Cheney's going to go through, that her suffering will drive a unity between her and Jessica?
Yes. It's already so in the last chapter, and let me read that part of it. So, okay, so Paul tells her, like, hey, you're going to be my concubine, she's going to be my wife, and that's it, sorry. He goes, we must obey the forms, yet the princess shall have no more of me than my name, no child of mine, nor touch, nor softness, nor glance, nor instance of desire. So say you now, Cheney said. She glanced across the room at the tall princess. Do you know so little of my son? Jessica whispered. See that princess standing there, so haughty and confident? They say she has the pretensions of a literary nature. Let us hope she'll find solace in such things. She'll have little else. A bitter laugh escaped Jessica. Think on it, Cheney. The princess will have the name, yet she will live as less than a concubine, never to know a moment of tenderness from the man to whom she's bound, while we, Cheney, we who carry the name of concubine, history, will call us wives. So there's a little connection there.
Yeah, it's starting. That was
and it's
why
Jessica initiating. Cheney always wanted Jessica to like her. If you go back and reread the book, and here Jessica goes, yeah, we're not kind of kindred spirits. You know, we're in the same. We're on the same team at the very least.
Yeah, that's true.
If not, kindred spirit might be a little jump at this juncture, but they are definitely bound to each other. In Jessica, the situation has strengthened that bond.
In Jessica, we trust.
All hail Jessica.
Muad'Dib's mother.
The mother of the gator ass.
Well, I don't. It's more like a worm ass, but you know.
Worm, yes.
Know your books.
The one who rides the worm ass.
That's true. So let's talk about the Emperor for a second, because you mentioned the Emperor, and I'm just curious: is it just me, or does it seem a little peculiar that this badass Emperor, because like throughout the book, it was always the Sardaukar warriors are incredible, and da-da-da-da-da, Sardaukar. And then like, oh, the Emperor's pulling the strings. Then we saw him deal with the Baron. And so like he's been talked about. And this is one of the things we covered in the first episodes, where if you talk about a character before you see them, the longer you talk about them and the accolades and the things that they've done, the more it builds that character up. So he's been built up. And then it was just kind of like a quick overthrow. He didn't have any contingency plans for coming to Arrakis. Like, that seems...
Nope.
It seems a bit drab. Is that just me? Like, I like that Paul won, but like the Emperor doesn't have any sort of contingency plans.
Right. No, I see what you're saying. I think my response to that would be
all hail
the Emperor. Yes, all hail the mouse. The Emperor is so full of himself, just like the Baron, right? And we see these with these people of power, for all their machinations and all their, I can't say what I want to say. It's a kid show.
Oh, well, tell me and then edit it out.
For all the proverbial phallic swinging that they both do.
Oh boy,
is
gator tail swings.
Yeah. Is all for nothing, man. It's a show. And yes, the people under them, for them it's not a show. Because look at his nephew. What happened to him?
He stabbed my arm.
Yes. Well, he's a sniveler. I'm talking about him having to kill all his concubines or whatever. But anyway, so there's always somebody in charge.
Probably used his gator tail.
And
Sorry, this is a kid show.
No, it's fine. I'm looking at your. Never mind.
What are you looking at? What?
I'm looking at your notes here, and it says Paul sticking to the Emperor and his daughter.
Okay, it's a kid's show. Back to the main point. Emperor losing without having contingency plans.
Everybody has somebody that they answer to, and so does the Emperor. And apparently it's the Guild. Or if he doesn't answer to the Guild, he's beholden to them in some way where even if they don't know it per se, or I'm sure they do, we're speculating here, his position is somehow tethered to the guild's success. So there's a mutual benefit there. And the guild, from what little I read in the appendices right before you hit record, is they are kind of like the big movers and shakers of this universe. So, yeah, he's the emperor, and he probably has the power to kill people even on the guild, but he's gonna temper that back. So when he finds himself with 5 legions, all his Sardaukar are dead, his nephew's dead, the Baron is dead, and this kid just told the guild to go screw themselves. And the emperor's like, well, crap. And then you have Mother Mohiam and him deciding we must use treachery. There's no way out of this. So whatever they had, his contingency plan apparently was the mother and the 5 freaking legions in the sky, and he realizes that both aren't helping him. Mother Mohiam is kind of, but says hey, treachery is the only way out of this. And then the guys in the sky, Paul says, yeah, they're not going to do anything. Trust me. Don't worry about the people you brought with you. They're now mine. In a sense, is what he says.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I feel like there was a missed opportunity here for Frank Herbert. Now, we covered the fact that he, and this is just my last point, and then you can give a quick rebuttal, and then let's move on to the next theme, because I don't want to bore our audience. But you know what a chiastic structure is, Slava?
Yes.
Okay, can you give us just a quick rundown of what that is before I dive in my point?
Sure. It's usually done in poetry. You state a fact. You state a fact. You don't state a fact. Let me just do it with letters. So in a poetry, A, B, C, C, B, A. So you state something, you follow up with a statement, you follow up with a conclusion, you restate the conclusion, you restate the secondary statement, and then you restate the primary statement.
Well, you missed... Yes, that's true. You missed D, though, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason that chiastic structure existed for ancient writing styles and ancient storytelling, really, was that the main point was the middle point. So it was like A, B, C, D, C, B, A, right? Because D is the main point. That's the way that I remember it.
Well, let's look it up, because that's not how I remember it. And you've asked me this question before and agreed with my...
Well, maybe you described it differently before. Anyway.
I did not.
I think you did.
No, I am right.
No, not based on what I'm looking up here. It says chiastic structure. A, B, C, D, C, B, A.
All right, and I'm looking at it. It says a literary technique and narrative motifs that goes A, B, and then B, A.
Okay, so you're looking at a double chiasm and tripartite chiasm with A, B, C, C, B, A. And
in either case, I was right. You state a point, you make a point, you make a conclusion, you restate the conclusion, and you go backwards out.
Okay, well, I'm thinking about how the middle point was always the main point of the story from the ancient storytellers, where they'd build up to this central thing, this central moment, this central piece of the story, and then work their way backward with the mirrored piece. For those who are unfamiliar, Noah's Ark is a chiastic structure. And just before the center point, which is God remembers Noah, before that, it's the waters increase, and then literally the first action, the first plot point after that is the waters decrease. So that there's these mirroring moments. Anyway, chiastic structure disagreement, all that to say that I feel like there was a missed opportunity by Herbert here because he does such a good job at tying this together. He brings in the Gonjabar, he brings in like, hey, this is my grandfather, he brings in the Emperor and the Sardaukar, he sets Paul up to have the same can't marry the one he loves, has to marry for duty, Cheney. It's just like very much the same. I feel like he could have built a chiastic structure out of this.
Yeah,
maybe he didn't
agree.
know. Maybe, because he ties it up pretty well. He just kind of like shoves all the letters in at the end, like, and they're here. Enjoy. So I love a good chiastic structure. So.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and I think you're right. And maybe he did it without doing it because it's unstructured. It's just
alphabet soup.
It's alphabet soup, like you said, because that's what I got out of the ending. Is he repeats his father's life?
Yeah, except that he's he took a step up because he's now in line for the throne for the Emperor.
Yeah.
Imperium? Whatever.
Whatever. Doesn't matter.
All right. But yeah, power and suffering, that's a good theme. We're going to be looking at themes here moving forward in all of our books to just try to keep that as a fun talking point because we're trying something new. So, all right, let's dive into people and nature.
Well, we already covered people in nature. That was connected to power and suffering. If you want to make a comment or refer to that, the last thing I said regarding people's nature is it's connected to the suffering that both the Sardaukans and the Fremen and all of these characters that we meet, they suffer at the proverbial hands of the environment, right? And the environment changes them, and then they also change the environment. They subdue it, they conquer it, or get conquered by it, or learn to live within its parameters, or are changed and hardened by it. Like Irulan says that God made Arrakis to make men tough, paraphrase. So if you want to comment on that, you can, but I think it's safe to move on.
No, we can move on. I didn't realize that you tied them both together. I thought we were going to go piece by piece, but that's all right. Let's roll.
Let's do religion and control. We're going to go a little bit out of order by notes.
Sure.
But religion and control and human potential. We'll tie those two together, and then we'll end with fate versus free will. It'll be like a loose, chiastic structure. So, religion and control.
You really know how to make a Jew feel known.
I do my best. Paul realizes that the Fremen are now beyond his control, right? He is the Muad'Dib. He is the... Say it for me.
Muad'Dib?
No, the other thing. What I like you, what I like you to call me.
Slavinator?
Yeah, Slavinator.
The old Slobnob?
Or the Slobnob. Ass.
No.
The thing, the Messiah name. Okay, so now Paul's the Messiah. Title unknown. Because we're a bunch of asshats. But he's unable to stop the jihad. And everything he did, he was able to move certain chess pieces around. But ultimately, he became the Muad'Dib. He unified the Fremen like he wanted to. And he didn't stop the jihad. He had to accept it. Jessica.
It's the Kwisatz Haderach. But you didn't really... You didn't give me the specific question you wanted. You're just like, call me that thing you call...
That's the joke. Welcome to SideQuest, everybody. Ultimately, Jessica has the same realization, or not the same realization, but she goes through the same thing. The same thing happens to her. She ultimately is unable to wield the Fremen to the degree that she wants or she wanted. She was doing it to protect Paul and protect herself and all this stuff. But ultimately, everything happens the way it's supposed to, air quotes, the way it was fated to happen. That old witch, with all the movements and all the political intrigue and everything that the Sisterhood does, the Bene Gesserit, everything they do to make sure that people breed correctly and distinguishing humans and not humans and manipulating political courts, for all that, hey, man, these are their kids. This is the world they created.
They caused this. They
caused this.
They caused both fate and free will.
Sure. I'm getting at they caused the situations that we read about. They wanted something else. They were doing these things to make Arrakis and make this world that we read about better than before. Nothing's better than before. Everything's the same. And again, go to the appendices. I did for 5 seconds before we started recording. This world has known nothing but wars. And then there was this ecumenical council, and everybody got along for a while, and everybody kind of took their roles as we find them when we open the first pages of Dune. But it's already hit the fan, man. The proverbial poo's already all over the wall. So for all their attempts, Bene Gesserit didn't get anything accomplished. They used their free will. They even used superhuman abilities to push their will onto others, yet fate won.
Do you think that the guild controls the Bene Gesserit?
No, I don't think so. Again, from the 5 minutes I spent on the appendices, it seems that they are their own thing, and they have control even over people who are a little bit more agnostic to them, to their way of thinking, because there's such a mystique about them. And they're able to do the whole voice thing and control people and, other creepy shit. So,
Yeah. Fair enough.
So that's religion and control. And with that control comes the whole human potential. That's how I'm going to tie it in, because that's what the Bene Gesserits want.
Whoa.
You want to jump in here?
I didn't get to respond about
No,
religion and control.
I was doing the same thing I did it before. But here, jump in here. Break the chiastic structure.
I had things to say. And
you should.
I need to remember them now. The Bene Gesserit, religion and control. So like Paul and Jessica both embrace this thing that then embraces them and controls them, because they try to use it for control, and they get controlled by it partly. But it makes me think of the Bene Gesserit specifically, and they're controlling the fates and controlling time and controlling literally who people marry and taking children away, women away from their parents, and then making them breed possibly with their uncles, which is really weird. As an uncle, it's very weird. It makes me think of something that most people would probably find to be a strange sequitur, but it makes me think of Austrian economics. Why do I think about Austrian economics, do you say? That's a great question, let me tell you.
Hey, Jonathan, why Austrian economics?
Oh, Slava, thanks for asking. This is good. So, before we talk about Austrian economics, we got to talk about Keynesian economics, because that is really what this pairs down to. Keynesian economics believes that government intervention in the marketplace and regulation of the marketplace is deeply important, i.e. the Bene Gesserit. They have to get involved to make things be their best. Austrian economics, on the other hand, believes that there should be zero government intervention in the marketplace. Why? Because they believe that if there's an increase in money supply, or you could interpret that as if there's a purposeful diving in from the government and regulating in some way. So if there's an increase in money supply not supported by an increase in production of goods and services, value, let's say the last 5 years or so, longer probably, just to pick a simple time frame. Not an increase in production of goods and services leads to an increase in prices. Anybody feeling that right now? No, just me? Yeah, we'll let that sit there. All right. But that prices of all goods do not increase simultaneously. So, what do I mean by this? How does this make me think of the Bene Gesserit? Well, they fiddled with fate. They fiddled with people's lives. They fiddled with bloodlines. We see that as a theme that comes up, a plot device that comes up pretty regularly. But they're very much like the Keynesian economists who think, we got to get our hands involved. But I thought about Austrian because I prefer that the market just stabilize by itself. The market will tell you what it wants. If they don't like your product, they ain't buying. So that's my little side question. Your little economics question. Question, but lesson. Lesson. Bene Gesserit.
Good stuff. Bene Gesserit.
Keynesian like economics.
I love it. That's probably one of the top 3 smartest side quests we've had.
All right. Don't toot my horn. Toot it again. What do you call me? Quick, Slava, what do you call me? Queedot Sodarock.
Queef duck.
Oh my God. You're why we can't have nice things.
I am like the Keynesian economist that says inappropriate things.
I hate everything about who you choose to be as a person.
So, human potential, right? The connection here, before I was rudely interrupted with an economics lesson, connection I wanted to make, love you, man. The connection I wanted to make to religion and control, because the control part of that is human potential. Why do the Bene Gesserits muddle and get their little grubby little wrinkly hands into everything? They want to make sure that the bloodlines and the humans, those that they find to be humans, advance well. So you have this human potential, and that's a very specific way that I think Herbert's talking about human potential, and it kind of blossoms, if you will, here towards the end, and it only blossoms in light of the rest of the book. So why did everybody in this world ban AI and computers. Well, whatever happened during that big war and that big, we're going to call it apocalypse, although apocalypse really means revelation and not a war. It's a Greek lesson for all of you. So during that big event, after which the humans banned AI and banned technology and banned computers, so you have industrial technology and industrial technology that can take you through space. You still don't have like phones or computers. But anyway, people have learned to advance in otherwise. You have mentats who are human computers. Something you would ask Google, you now ask a mentat. And Bene Gesserits themselves have great, potential. They have made great leaps in human ability. Paul, who has both the male and the female aspects of the Bene Gesserit teaching and the powers and the mind control and all of that, gives him great potential. He is almost outside of everybody else around him, which brings me to his sister, who has all these memories and all this wisdom. And you guys know the old adage, maybe you don't know, but I've said it before, maybe you heard it from me, is zeal without knowledge is folly, but knowledge without wisdom is folly also. And so Aliyah has all this knowledge, but she's still a precocious freaking 3-year-old. It's not like she actually has wisdom from having all this knowledge. Yeah, she has a little bit.
When's the last time you killed a person? That's what I thought.
Are you gonna edit this out? I'll tell you.
Not when you were 3, I'll tell you that much.
Not when I was 3. But nonetheless, she's able to concoct this plan. Nevertheless, she's able to concoct this plan to kill Grandpa, and she's screwing with him by being, a 2-year-old. But do you think if provided a serious opportunity, and by that I mean, like, killing Grandpa's not serious enough, but like really moving the big chess pieces, I think she might say the right things, given all her memories, but she still doesn't have wisdom. She's still 2. This is not the Matrix. You don't plug in and like know karate. The problem here is exceeding too fast, right? And I think that's kind of where it ends for Herbert, even though he's made positive claims about human potential in this world, and he's kind of alluded to maybe some of the not so positive, some negative aspects of it. Here, it's kind of, for me, it's kind of laid out bare. And with that, I bid you take over.
You posed an interesting question. You said, with great power comes great responsibility, but then you said, you can't be responsible if you don't have wisdom. Is that what you said?
Yes.
So, is that true? Because I don't think it is. I think that you can be responsible without wisdom.
Well, if we're talking about tying your shoes and paying your taxes, it goes back to definitions again, right? Then you can pay your taxes and be a dumbass and pay your taxes on time.
I think what you were getting at, and you can correct me if I missed it here, but you can't be responsible with power without wisdom.
Yes.
Right? Because power is a rocket launcher put in your hands, and your hand is on the trigger. You can do whatever you want with it. You have this massive tool. And
yes, this is what I live with, work with. I mean, never mind. We don't live together.
Thank God.
What the hell?
The showers would be rough. Like a sea full of sausages.
Why do you imagine if we lived together, we'd have to take a shower together? Like, is there? Because we can live in my house. I have plenty of hot water. My water heater works just fine. If
we've degraded here, it's. What was I saying? Power and wisdom.
Human potential. We're talking about wisdom.
There's no potential here. Not with 2 sausages. I need to move on. I'm sure I had a point here.
Yeah, a rocket launcher you have to be wise how to use a rocket launcher. Because
Yeah.
if you blow up your water heater and have to move in with a friend,
make sure that they snip around first.
make sure they have 1.5 baths at least.
I can use a sink. God, man. Okay. Yeah. Power. They say that power corrupts absolutely. I think without wisdom, that's correct. I think with wisdom, you know how to wield power. I was having a conversation with Christopher, who's going to be on next episode, when one time were watching this anime, and we were talking about mercy. And the point that we came up with at the end of the episode was that you can't have mercy unless you have power. It's not mercy if you don't have the ability to destroy the person in front of you.
Right.
Right? So I think I just wanted to verbally clarify the point that you alluded to for myself, because I heard it one way, but I thought it was the other way. And you did. So thank you. That's
my pleasure.
Is that sausage is extra or
no? It's double sausage day.
Okay. Well, we're coming up on an hour here, so it's time to. What questions did you have now that we've finished the book? Did you have any questions? Because I certainly did.
I had a couple questions. I'm really confused as why the old witch Mahayam is so upset about Aaliyah. I get that Aaliyah is a little different, and just what we talked about makes her a little dangerous. If not a lot of dangerous, if you're
right, because she has power without wisdom. Right. Sorry, that's I didn't tie that back. Thank you.
Right. If not a lot of dangerous, especially to a fat rapey bastard with jowls hanging over his.
That got me every time it described it, and then his jowls sort of flopping around.
Yeah. Now there was one other thing that always stayed with me. Slapped you with me.
His jowls slapped you in the old blow.
No, not really. But when he said, "Hey, bring me that nice-looking slave boy, make sure he's drugged. I don't feel like wrestling." I was like, "Oh, that's
boy,
oh, Baron, oh God, I'm gonna take a shower after they're reading that paragraph." Luckily, nothing was described. But what do you think happened, right? So no, the Baron is a piece of garbage, and he got what he deserved. But nonetheless, off topic, back on track. Yeah, Aaliyah's a little dangerous. A lot of dangerous in the right situations, and I understand why the Reverend Mother might be like, "Oh, this is a problem," but instead she's like, "Killed a little bitch," and you're like, "Whoa, good," that escalated quickly.
Yeah,
and even the Fremen, and we discussed folk religion and religious fervor without any knowledge, zeal without knowledge. We talked about that last week, and so my question is like, what's with these people and this girl? Like, I mean, I get it. She's a little weird, and I understand the dangers that she proposes, but why is the first thing, and don't tell me it's a hard planet and the hard life, because I get that too. What the hell, people? Why do you want to kill this kid? Why is she an abomination?
Maybe the first Reverend Mother was born this way, and she wants it to never happen again, because she's still roaming about in the universe somewhere.
Is it like a 5-year-old? Like she's not, like she hasn't grown up? Is this like what, Tuck Neverlasting or some nonsense?
Right. Well, I don't know.
Do you know what Tuck Neverlasting is? It's not sexual, I promise you. It's you're looking at me like it might be something disgusting.
That's what Edgar Allan Poe said when he loved his cousin sister.
I'll tuck you.
No, it's not sexual. Anyway, just tell us.
It's a book about a family that found the fountain of life. Or youth, and their name was Tuck, I think, and they meet a girl, and the girl falls in love with the boy, but the girl ends up not drinking from the fountain of life, and then in the book, he comes to her gravesite and mourns, and it's very romantic and blah, blah, blah.
So it's Twilight, but different.
There's no vampires. There are some toothless mouth breeders, who are obviously, it's always the rednecks. The redneck has to be the evil racist in every trope since the 1970s, I think. Anyway,
I mean,
I met some. That's not.
it's not unfounded.
It's not unfounded, but
Come into a small town and try that.
I've been to plenty of towns. My pasty ass has been in plenty of towns when they're like, this town ain't big enough for, my cousin wife and you. Like, all right, buddy, I got you.
That's right. So, I'll get back on the plane. Thank you very much.
But I also met some of the same kind of people up north. You go up north, the northern rednecks are even scarier.
Yeah,
because they'll never find you in the mountains.
That's true. Hill people are terrifying.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's this typical stupid trope, and I get it. There's racist, stupid rednecks. That's why there's even the term for them, rednecks.
Yeah,
but not everybody in the South is evil and wants to eat.
Tons
poor
of people are racist. The Sunni and the Shiite, racist as shit.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't talk about that though because they're not white.
Right. Yes. No theme for that to tie it back. That's going to hang there. And that's fine.
You can just cut that out. It's non sequitur.
Yeah.
So what other questions did you have?
Well, that's it. The question. Well, no, that's not it. I retract
I
my
was going to say that's not it. I'm looking at the notes here. That's not it.
That's not it.
Your one
I had
question.
2 questions.
Okay.
What's up, Mother Mahimi's ass? And then, what is Paul going to do now? That goes back to my comment earlier. Just a little epilogue. What is Paul doing? He's got 3 girls now. He's got Cheney. He's got a slave girl. He's got this princess who's, his ticket to the throne. My 2 questions. What the hell is Paul doing now? I just want to follow up. And really, what's up their butts about Aaliyah?
Similarly, I want to know why the Reverend Mothers have never helped create a daughter like Aaliyah. Like, why not? If you can train them from childhood, why not just continue to do this? That seems like a real great way to get things done. That's one of my questions. One of my follow-up questions, though, is, okay, so the prophecy has come to be. We've got the Kwisatz Haderach. Now what? Now what? Now what? Like, it kind of goes in hand with your what's Paul going to do with Arrakis now? Like, okay, Kwisatz Haderach's here. Now what? And, I mean, there's more novels, so I'm sure that some of this gets unpacked. But just curious. Just want to know.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think as we're wrapping up here, what about something that we didn't like? Is there something you didn't like about the book?
That's a good question. I didn't like what the Baron probably did with that slave boy. I'll tell you that.
No, I didn't like that either. That wasn't. I'm all for wanton violence, but that was just evil. Yeah, man. Yes. Like if it's an action book, like
in the books,
yeah, not like in real life.
Yeah. All right.
And hell, listen, I'm all for evil stuff being described. I'm not shying away. Like I'm not saying that shouldn't be in there, but that was very dark.
It's we've talked about this before, but it's interesting when you have to write something dark because I wrote something similarly dark, and I thought about it after I wrote it, and it's honestly one of the best things that I've ever written. And I read it, and I was like, ooh. What do you tell your mom when you write something like that? Like, oh, Mom, I wrote this new story. And she reads it, and she goes, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. It has to come from somewhere, right? So people naturally will ask that, especially mothers. Other writers probably wouldn't. Yeah, right. Other writers probably wouldn't ask you where you got that from. They'd probably either critique it or say yay or nay on it. Yeah, a regular layperson would be like, what the hell, dude? Is everything okay at home?
My girlfriend calls me her little Latka when she
Latka?
What?
Latka?
Yeah, you heard me. Anyway.
Like a potato pancake? Or like lapka, which is the Russian diminutive for a paw. I'm just trying to figure this out.
You know what? I'll just leave it to the audience's imagination. That's funny.
Okay.
I can't wait till she listens to this
There's a
episode.
difference between a P and a T, and I'm
That's fine. There was nothing that stood out that I really disliked, honestly. It was a
Right.
very well-written book. There's a few, and I've asked this throughout. It didn't make me dislike the book, but like, where'd Jessica's crysknife go? Just little things here and there, wanting to know more about the world, but nothing that stood out was like, well, I didn't really like this book the way that I didn't like China Mayville's book. Is that too much?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I would have to say the same
Right.
style,
The
right?
pacing was just so consistent. You're
Yeah.
always in the action.
Yes. Yeah, nothing jumped out at me. I keep saying that. Shit. Yes, we're on the same page. There is nothing about this book that I disliked.
You could even say that nothing jumped out at you.
You could say that. I wouldn't because it's just an awkward way of saying it. When you repeat that phrase 6 times,
I'm losing it here, folks.
the beauty
I'm
of
losing it.
post edit. So didn't dislike anything about the book. My only wish was for an epilogue, and that's it.
You want a little cherry on top.
Yes, if we're gonna use your phrasing, the cherry on top for me here would be an epilogue. But hey, 16 books and 2 more in the original trilogy. I'm sure I can get my desires met. So overall, good book. I liked it.
What would you rate it?
What would I rate it? What, 10 out of 10? How are we doing?
Sure. Well,
Or are we going to do like what we did once before and never again, even though we promised we would, rate the story overall, the plot, and the characters?
let's do that.
And the world. There's 4 things.
Story, plot, characters, world.
Yeah. And let's do something a little bit difficult. 1 out of 5, right?
Yeah. 1 out of 5 is great.
So, story for me, I think is a solid 4. It wasn't like the greatest thing I ever read, but it was pretty damn close, right? It was a really good story. I liked it. I didn't think anything was cliche about it. Plot, I'd say the same. I thought everything was tied together well. It ended well. Characters, I'm going to say 3 for characters, but not because the characters themselves were bad or poorly written, but because I wanted maybe more time with them. And that definitely connects to the epilogue. I wanted to know a little bit more because we were always in the
You want to
action.
spend a little more time
and
with
that's
the
great.
Baron?
No. Maybe I'll take Princess Irulan on a friend date so she's not so lonely. So I'm saying 3, not because of Herbert or how they're written, but I wanted a little bit more with each character, maybe inside their head.
Yep. World?
Yeah. And then the world, I'm going to say 3 again because we got only one place where we got a good description of. I would want to have more ecology, whatever. I would want more time spent describing what the hell the worms are. Have they eaten a lot of Fremen, not a lot of Fremen? Like, what do they do when they're not eating people? Just a little bit more. And maybe 3.5, but we're going to stick to a 3. I think that's it. We got it all, right?
You got the story, plot, characters, world. What's the difference between the plot and the story, Slava?
The story is the overall narrative, and the plot are the devices that are used to tell the story.
Great. Perfect. I just wanted to clarify for the audience and for me. So, as you were asking the question, I wrote down mine as well. I give the story overall a 4. I think that there was... I really think that this book itself, even though there's 2 other books, could have been another 20 chapters. Like, there could have been more suspense buildup. Like, there were options. Like, Herbert did such a good job. There were so many more directions he could have taken it, even if it was just like after the fact for a little more resolution, like you're talking about. Just anything. Plot also 4. We see a lot of fun things on Arrakis here. We see a little bit going on in the universe, and it leaves you wondering and asking, like, well, I'd like to know a little more, which you'd think would make it a 5, but actually didn't give us enough questions because it just kind of slid through everything that was going on. Not a bad thing. It kept the pacing good, kept the action good, but it leaves a little to be desired for me. I want more. And I think I say that on a lot of books that we read. It's like, I want more from the story. I want more from the world. I want more from the characters. Characters, for me, 3. I think the second half of the book is a lot of wrap-up, and it sort of lets the pedal up, takes its foot off the pedal a little bit for character development in the second half of the book. And I think that it could have stuck in there a little longer, personally. And then for world, you know me, I'm a big world guy. Give it a 3, because Herbert did a really good job with everything that we understood. Especially the Baron's jowls. Oh, just disgusting. But I wanted more. I want more. I always want more. I'm like, man, you guys aren't gonna get the reference. All right, you'll get the reference one day, maybe if I say it. Anyway, the world, a 3. The world is a 3. So this is Slav and I's rating. We actually agree on something for once. Stories a 4, plots a 4, characters are a 3, world is a 3. All right, cool. Well, that's the episode, folks. Thanks so much for joining us on Dune. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to share this with your favorite Dune friend. Or if you wanted to do a read-along and discuss the nonsense that Slav and I discuss before we have our guests on, you can go back to episode 1, tell your friends, hey, they're reading the first 12 chapters, let's read it and participate. So just share this with a friend. And then, Slava, what are we reading next?
We are reading Soulsmith, which is book 2 in the Cradle series by Will White.
Hey.
Which I'm looking forward to, because this one missed whatever the guy's
Lyndon.
name is. Apparently not that
Lyndon.
much, because I forgot his Lyndon Taylor.
Nope, just Lyndon. Weishi Lyndon Aurelius. What? Oh, wait, shoot.
Lyndon Taylor. I know it's not his name. All right, let's start over. Maybe I'll
Baron's
keep some
coming
of this,
for you.
but I can hear his jowls a flapping. His stilts are creaking and his jowls are flapping.
I think I'm going to vomit in my mouth.
Yes. The next thing we're reading, Jonathan, this is definitely one for the gag reel, right? Could be a comeback story.
Don't call it a comeback.
What's your favorite comeback story?
That's a great question.
Excellent. So next time on Soulsmith, we're reading SideQuest.
Okay. Next time on Soupsmith, we're doing the dingo. Dingo ate you, baby. All right, we're reading. We're.
Me. All right, let's just.
Okay. Slava's lost it.
Oh wow!
But we're going back to Cradle. We're checking out what Yaren and Lyndon are up to and what kind of shenanigans they find themselves in.
I'm looking forward to it. I really enjoyed the first book, and we're doing 2, I think, and 3. Book 2 and book 3, so I'm really looking forward to it. I know Spencer is, since he's in book 10 now or something, right?
So my friend Jake is on book 10. He's plowing through these. And then Spencer's on book 5 halfway through. And there's a lot of fun stuff that happens at the end of book 5 that I'm excited to talk to him about, but not you because you haven't gotten that far. So
Fair enough.
Yeah. Actually, fun fact to our Cradle listeners, you have made the Unsold book our top listened to episode series. So that's why we're diving back into the world of Cradle. I love it. I read all 12 books. I've read the series itself outside of book 12 because it just came out 3 times. So big fan. So happy to have a space for you guys to listen to me introduce some new friends to Cradle. 3 people who've never read Cradle before are reading Cradle now because I loved it so much, and I said, I'm going to not be your friend if you don't read this book.
You said that. And I need friends.
I said it in between my flapping jowls. That's it.
That's gonna
Tune
be
in next week, same time, same place. Can't wait to talk to you about Soupsmith.
a book written by Will White.